dragon strikes back.
Hello, CriticalHit here for Failhouse Gaming, and I'm going to bring you some gameplay footage of my Midrange Druid deck. This is a deck I've been working on recently because I really wanted to exploit the ability that a Druid has to play 4-drops on turn 3 with incredible reliability. Since half the time you can do that with coin anyway, but then they also have 2 ways on turn 2 to accelerate you into 4 mana on turn 3, with the neutral pint-sized summoner and the wild growth that we see in our hand here. But the Wrath is something I definitely want to keep early on, especially since most Warlocks nowadays are aggressive decks. So I need the early removal. And wild growth is like the namesake of the deck, so it has to be kept, and also all gold hand, can't complain with that. Turn 1 plays are definitely something that this deck doesn't do very often, so it's not surprising to pass on turn 1. And then the turn 2 play is almost always just a wild growth. Something notable about Wrath, which is quite useful, is unlike things like Mortal Coil, you get to draw the card when you deal 1 damage, regardless of whether it kills it or not, or in fact actually does any damage, so it's quite nice for just pinging Divine Shield off things sometimes. We'll just go ahead and kill that. Ah, and another Wrath. So if he is indeed an aggressive deck like it seems he is at this point, I think I'm probably better off using the Druid of the Claw to be a taunt. The versatility of this card makes it extremely powerful. The fact that if you're being the aggressor, it's between that and the Argent Commander, lots of your late game creatures can deal damage immediately, which is nice, but it also provides a big taunt wall that's definitely better than its cost would normally give you. Is also extremely useful. So since he's got nothing on the field that I need to taunt against, I'm just going to go ahead and get in there for some damage, start playing aggressively. And the next turn I have options including Keeper of the Grove and Wrath for some serious removal, killing something enormous with the Big Game Hunter, not that I think there's anything enormous he could do on turn 4 that would kill. But then I've also got the Argent Commander as another option, and then get in there for 8. At that point he's very close to just being in death range. This is the Knife Juggler, something I would definitely be interested in killing with the Keeper of the Grove, so that's possibly where I'm going to go with this turn. Everything I can keep off his side of the board is definitely useful. Now Keeper of the Grove is another card which really kind of made me want to build this deck. Oh, and he just concedes. Yeah, I don't blame him. He was not in a good position at that point. Now Keeper of the Grove is a very, very strong card, especially for 4 mana. It's definitely one of the more powerful things you can be doing on turn 3, off of a coin or a ramp spell on turn 2. Although something I've noticed with this game at the moment is there's actually a bit of a lack in 4-drops that are good on an empty field. Like Keeper of the Grove, yes, he can do 2 damage to your opponent, but that's not great. He's definitely more useful when your opponent has things. And then other strong 4-drops include Defender of Argus or Dark Iron Dwarf, that both really need you to have other creatures on the field when you play them. The amount of 4-drops which are just good on their own, few and far between, and are really just the Yeti. Okay, so I'm going to drop the Drake and Ragnaros. Ragnaros because I'm not going to be playing him for about 1 billion turns. The Azure Drake, although it would often be fine to keep in my opening hand, especially if I'm going turn 2, and especially if I had a ramp spell, but I don't have a ramp spell, and I have the Yeti that I'm likely going to use my coin on, so this isn't going to get played until a little later, so it's good to get rid of it. And you never know, I might get a wild growth, or a pint-sized summoner, if it lives, which I've noticed more and more nowadays. People don't let a pint-sized summoner live, it just dies immediately, which is unfortunate, but that's how it often goes. So I can coin Yeti on turn 3, and then Yeti on turn 4 as well, even if the pint-sized summoner dies. Which definitely sounds good to me. Ancient Watcher. So he's probably going to be doing the Ancient Watcher, buff it up, give it taunt, silence it attack, all of that sort of crap. That's fine with me. If it's not buffed, then it can be killed in a couple of turns to Starfall, but hopefully he just doesn't have anything to buff it or silence it at the moment, because then it's just a useless card. Summoner is killed, as it always is. That's fine, that doesn't stop me accelerating my creatures out for the time being. And I can kill that next turn, if I want to, by attacking and using Shapeshift. I would take 4 down, well I'd only take 3 because of the armor, which wouldn't be the worst, so that's probably what I'll end up doing, depending on, of course, of what he plays. Oh, it's a big play.
Wild Pyromancer.
Ooh. That's a spicy play. I can definitely get behind that. There's no need to worry too much about the Ancient Watch just yet then. I feel like he'd probably have done something with it by now if he had something in hand. So we'll just kill the Wild Pyromancer. We've ended up building quite a lot of card advantage early on in this game, just because he's had to use multiple cards to get rid of 1 or 2 of our things. And of course the fact that we went second just gives us inherent card advantage, which is always good. Oh, and the buffs come out. Still can't attack with it though, so it's still not enormously useful. I think I'm just going to go ahead and Starfall it.
Oh, if you're sure.
And we are 6 cards to 3 at the moment, so we are definitely ahead. Although Wild Growth essentially isn't a card, really, until you get really late on in the game. Because if you play it when you already have 10 mana crystals, you do get to draw a card with it instead, which is nice. Okay, so what are our options for killing this? We can attack it with our hero and then swipe it. That's more or less the only option really that we have. Yeah, that seems okay. I'm not worried about taking a couple points of damage. When we're ahead on cards, continuing to just 1-for-1 him definitely works out best for us. And in a turn or two, we're going to be able to make some big plays, such as Chillwind Yeti into Defender of Argus, Argent Commander and Claw, or Argent Commander and Hero Power. Ooh. Okay, so the Ancient Watcher does now need to be dealt with. So I'm going to go ahead and use this and the Claw to get rid of that. And we can start to put on the aggression ourselves now. Although most likely I think I'll use his hero power and trade the Keeper of the Grove to kill my Argent Commander. As I said earlier, 1-for-1ing when you're up on cards is not a bad thing. Although that is a tough creature to kill. Problem solved.
I must safeguard the land.
My shield for Argus. Victory!
I'm not sure I'm even going to bother killing it. I think I'm just going to go straight for the face at this point. I have 2 taunt creatures he has to get through before he can start dealing any more damage to me. So I'll let him waste his attacks doing that and just get the damage on him.
Who dares to
Cenarius. Presumably pumping his guys. Yes. That's definitely a scary play from where I'm sitting. Okay, so what are our options now? If we could kill Cenarius, that would be useful. This isn't too hard for us to kill. We could use the Argent Commander there. But killing Cenarius is actually going to be quite problematic. We might have to leave that for next turn. But what we can definitely do is use the Argent Commander here. And as much as I'd like to use my hero power to kill this, I'm not sure it's a good plan. Nah, screw it, let's do it. And then next turn we'll work out how we're going to deal with this guy. Well, we've got enough damage between these guys and the Keeper of the Grove or our hero power. Finish him off. Oh! Well, that was a play I didn't expect. Huh. Huh. Alrighty then. Kudos to that guy. Double Mark of Nature. Sometimes you just get double Mark of Natured. Like when you occasionally play against a paladin, and then he uses his 10 mana to play, what's it called, Divine Champion? The one that doubles the minion's attack? Sometimes you just get double Divine Championed and you just die. Priest.
The light shall bring victory.
I must protect the wild.
Okay, so Ragnaros is definitely going. I'm not certain if I'm going to keep the Yeti or not. I'm definitely getting rid of the Shattered Sun Cleric, because at the moment we don't know if we have any creatures that will come out before the Shattered Sun Cleric that we actually want to buff with it. And, whoop, microphone just fell down. And if you don't get to buff a creature with Shattered Sun Cleric, it's a bit of an underwhelming play, so that's definitely going to go. And I think I'm going to keep the Yeti, because it's overall a solid card, and I want to make sure I have some kind of creature to put some pressure on with, even if it's not too early. And I might get lucky and draw into a ramp spell. I did not, and that is an expensive hand, so this game could be a little bit rough. Whey! Problem solved. There we go. You really can, with 2 copies of Wild Growth and 2 copies of the Pint-Sized Summoner, you really can have a ramp spell on turn 2 with incredible reliability. That healing.
Greetings.
My greetings.
Another swipe. It'll just play the Yeti. Not many things kill a fairy dragon because of its stupid ability, but big creatures do. And he's probably not going to be able to kill it this turn unless he uses a smite and the fairy dragon. So he just draws cards. Force Steel's an interesting and kind of irritating card to play against sometimes, because suddenly now the amount of cards I have to play around him potentially having is much, much larger. And I'm happy to kill his fairy dragon. And then I'm going to play the Yasuo Drake.
Job's done.
And we can do a lot of damage to him next turn with the Argent Commander. We'll have 12 damage on board, and then we have another charged creature in the form of the Druid of the Claw. And that's one of the strengths of the deck. You can start to put out large creatures very quickly, and all of the late game plays, the Druid of the Claw, the Argent Commander, the Ragnaros, they all get to deal damage immediately. And he's in a lot of trouble here now. I'm going to go for the Argent Commander. And this guy could potentially trade for one of my creatures, so I think it's worth using the Divine Shield to kill him. I don't need to race him with damage too much. And between the swipes, the charge, and the extra damage from the Defender of Argus pumps, he is very, very dead over the course of the next few turns. But I don't think I'm even going to commit any more damage to the board this turn. We're going to go ahead and clear his field with the Starfall. And there are very few things he can do to survive next turn, especially since we can double swipe him.
Well played. You had better.
Okay, 2-1 in 3 games. That's not bad. I think overall you got a good idea of how this deck plays a lot of the time. I'll just give you a quick overview of the deck list. Okay, so for removal, we play Claw, Wrath, Swipe, and Starfall. Claw and Wrath I think they're no-brainers. They're just powerful early game removal. Wrath can also generate card advantage sometimes. They do a lot of work. And occasionally you have to defensive claw to get the armor and not die. It's rare, but it happens sometimes. Swipe is just an incredible card for single target removal or for clearing a board. It just does a lot. And then, although I don't generally rate Starfall as an amazing card, I generally think that Swipe is so much better, but there were just some matchups such as Mage where there's a lot of 2 toughness creatures that can be very annoying, or against a Shaman when you just need to clear a lot of totems that without spell power you just can't do with Swipe. The 1 Starfall was just a necessary addition that I needed as essentially a 3rd Swipe. And then we've got our 2 Wild Growths and our 2 Pint-Sized Summoners, of course, for 2 drops that let us play 4 drops as 3 drops. That is the basis for the deck. I used to play... Oh, this actually comes under removal. I used to play 1 Naturalize, which I often do in Druid decks, because they do have a problem with huge creatures sometimes. But Naturalize is good sometimes, but there's a lot of cases where you just can't play it. But the Big Game Hunter kills more or less the same kind of things I was trying to kill with it. And if you need to, you can just play it as a 3-drop sometimes. So it seemed like a better fit for the deck. For our 4-drops that we like to play on turn 3, the Chillwind Yeti, who is more or less the best thing you want to be doing on turn 3 with this deck. And then we've got the Keep of the Grove, who just does a lot and is incredibly good value for his cost. We also have Defender of Argus and Shattered Sun Cleric for your generically useful, just making your creatures lager? Beer on the brain today, apparently. Making your creatures larger. And then for your larger, sort of more finisher sort of creatures, have Azure Drake and Argent Commander, which are just so good, they should probably be in every deck at the moment. They are just insane. And Druid of the Claw, who's so versatile, can be so defensive and also so aggressive, that curving out from your ramping into a 4-drop into turn 5 attacking for 4, turn 6 attacking for 4 with all of your charge guys, you can put on a lot of pressure and a lot of damage early on, and you can play very defensively with it if you need to. Then sometimes you just need to draw cards, and Ancient of Lore is very good for that. I used to play a Nourish, I think it was, but the fact that this can be played for 6 with the Pint-Sized Summoner, so only 1 more mana, and it just gives you a larger creature, or sometimes you need to heal. Sometimes you're racing and that happens, and that's just useful for putting you a little bit ahead on life, or refilling your hand a little bit. And of course, Ragnaros, because Ragnaros is awesome. And he fits in with the theme of your late game cards giving you immediate advantage, not giving your opponent the chance to remove it before it can have some impact on the game. Okay, that's my Druid mid-range list. I've been Critical Hit for Failhouse Gaming. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.